Welcome to the Record Player, everybody. Scott with you as always. I am so pleased today to be joined by two guys who have finally hit the big time with their band Strippers Union after cutting their teeth in the music business with a couple of little bands called Odds and the Tragically Hip. All kidding aside, of course, I am so happy today to be joined by Strippers Union, Craig Northey and Rob Baker. How are you guys? Welcome to the Record Player.
Great, Scott.
Here.
Thanks for having us.
Did you say great, Scott?
I did.
Great stuff.
That's his new nickname.
I will take that. The new album is called The Undertaking, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. It's been out since January, February, or
Yeah, I think the end of January sound right? Like
Somewhere, I
20
think,
somewhere.
yeah, one of those months.
They've all kind of melded together, haven't they?
Yes.
you guys take so long between records that I think a lot of people may forget that this is actually your third album. It's been 11 years since The Deuce, if I'm not mistaken. That was in 2010, 2011. 15 years since the debut. How hard is it for you guys to create music together when, for example, you, Rob, are in Ontario, and Craig, you're generally based in Vancouver? Like, how hard is it for you guys to get together and do this? And is that why it's like, a long time between projects?
I would say that's a big part of it. Some other things were happening, going on in our lives individually and in our other bands. So that factored into some of the hiatus, I guess. But it does make it difficult. You can't just get together and say, I've got an idea, let's jam on it for 2 hours and see where it goes. It demands a different approach. But over the course of working on this record, The Undertaking, we went from, when we started working on it, I was burning files and sending them to Craig on CDs that I burnt. So he gets song ideas. And by the end, we're just like sending files back and forth at the Dropbox. So, yeah, I think technology is catching up to our demands.
Yeah, it's catching up to the way we work. I think it makes for a unique collaborative atmosphere. We figure out ways to do this, and so something interesting usually happens, and it allows for new kinds of accidents. And as Rob was saying, that it's pretty well documented the things that were going on in our lives that would make the gap between these last two records quite long as people recovered from and started to evolve. And so the other ones, I think that's a realistic 5 years between albums for the way we do things, and having other jobs just kind of happens.
You do a lot of this kind of thing, a lot of Zoom together, or is it just
Why, I think we were just Zooming yesterday, weren't we?
Zoom.
Are you on the
Yeah,
phone? Are you on the phone going, listen to this, or is it always Zoom?
it was
Uh,
it was the phone before. Yeah.
yeah,
Aretha Franklin would be proud of us. She would, with us
Zooming.
all the zooming we do.
Yeah, there was a lot of phone conversation before. There's been a lot of Zoom over this past year. Uh,
How did this whole thing start? I mean, in 2005, Rob, you were coming off In Between Evolution, I believe, with the Hip, and Craig, you were working with Colin James and doing some stuff there, some TV and film stuff. How did you guys get together and say, let's create a band, let's do something?
I'll,
uh,
I'll give
I
that
had
to
a
Rob.
lot of songs, being in the Hip, where we were all aspiring wannabe songwriters, I guess. There were only so many places on a record to place a song.
Mhm.
So if you got 2 or 3 or even 4 songs, Dare to Dream, 4 songs out of an 18-month period that you might be able to place with the band, that was pretty good. But that leaves a lot of material. Like if you're a songwriter, you aren't writing 4 songs every 18 months, I hope. Uh, I'm trying to, I was trying to churn things out a lot quicker than that. And I was getting backlogged with material, and it starts to become an impediment to new material, to new ideas when you have too much, up on the workbench, and every place you turn in your workshop, there's another unfinished project. So it just, it felt like it was the right time to give voice to some of these songs. And I've never been one to want to be the front guy. I mean, I guess I did, but I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't my forte. My forte is as a band guy. And that's always been my interest and my love. And if I was going to form a band with someone else, who would I form it with? I used the same guiding principle that I used when getting the Hip together. And that's that you play music with people that you love and respect as friends.
And you guys were friends already before that, right?
Yep. Yeah, we melded together early in the 90s, and our bands and the personalities were really close. And when Rob brought the batch of songs to me and said, I don't know what this is, but I think we can do something cool with it, it just kind of became Strippers Union. It was, I sort of thought, is this Rob's solo album and am I helping out or what? And I'm a band guy too, and we love the idea of bands and what bands represent and the culture of bands. And I'm just the singer who stands in front because nobody else would. You know, I think that I remember as a kid, it was like I just wanted to play guitar, and then someone goes, "Well, one of us has to sing," and I said, "Okay, I'll do it if I can scream. If there's a song that you can just scream, because I have no talent." So our first song was "Helter Skelter," of course, and so I have that feeling about singing. I've since had some practice, but I think that's where I come from. Is being in a band is the most important thing.
Mhm. One of the things that I love the most about Strippers Union, and it carries over from the first record to the new record, is that every song, and I mean, I guess as a songwriter, that's the point, but every song has its own vibe. Every song's different. I mean, every song you can certainly hear both of your influences, but from song to song, you can hear different things. You can hear the blues influences. You can hear a little bit of Zeppelin, Stones, Tom Petty, a little bit of everything in it. Is that conscious as you're writing? We've already got a song that sounds a bit like this, so let's.
No, not at all.
No,
It's
not,
all Rob. I'm gonna butt in here and say it's all Rob. That's the that's the genesis of each thing we write is with Rob. And it's always been that way. He comes up with a piece, and in this case, they were very finished instrumental pieces. And then if we get together, it's more about what is this call what's the story? When we listen to this piece, what's the story? And how can we make it funnier? And so we just start talking, and the lyric starts to build this undercurrent and melodies, and we just keep talking about it. But really, the genesis of them are these pieces. And so Rob goes on these adventures in his basement that are quite different, each one of them. So that's where the variety comes from.
You can even hear Rob a little talking about guitar things. I was listening to it, and I'm hearing a song like "No Fear" and the other "Take the Edge Off." You can almost hear a little bit of some disco guitar, some Barry White intro, a little bit of a little fun. It's funky.
I love Barry White.
It was great when I first heard it. I was like, "This is." I feel like I'm about to break into "Hey Baby."
I am a Barry White devotee. People talk about guilty pleasures. I've never felt guilty for a second. I love
Oh,
my first 8-track tape was Barry White, Standing in the Shadows of Love. Oh Lord.
Well, the influence is there on some of those.
Yeah, and it's that I think at the time I had titled that song "No Fear." It was an instrumental, and I think I entitled it "Tender Flake" because I was like. I knew that it was kind of mining a bit of a sort of a neo soul thing.
Yeah.
So I was like Justin Timberlake in the back of my mind. And I don't really go down that road too far. So I was like, well, we need a little Wes Montgomery guitar on there or something. I'm always like, what would be unusual in this? I've got a heavy rock song. It definitely needs pedal steel. That's just kind of the way I think. So.
and we're both big fans of that mid 60s to mid 70s soul stuff, and so I always push it in that direction. If I hear one of those ones in Rob's batch when I get to his place, I go instantly to that one first, and then we go to the other ones.
I I try not to mine the same, go down into the same mine too many times, but I must confess the go-to mine is kind of the Stax Fold 5. That's usually where I start. And then I may try and find an artery out to see if I can get back up to the surface somehow.
Well, a couple of those songs were my favorites on the record. I think they were great. Were all three albums recorded at the Bathouse Studios?
The first two were. This one, all of my stuff was done in my basement, which I call the Baji Bakery. It's a little home studio, a little Pro Tools studio. And then the original thought was that I was going to use my bass and program drums, but Craig quite wisely suggested, some of these songs would really benefit from Pat and Doug. And I had to acknowledge that that was indeed the case, in spite of the countless months I put into programming drums.
Sorry.
So I took my program drums and bass lines out to Pat and Doug with my hard drive under my arm, and 3 days in the studio, and they did everything. They just knocked them out 5, 6 a day. 6 a day, I think they did.
Wow.
Pretty
Wow.
impressive.
It's a great thing. I mean, and you guys are so tight. I mean, obviously knowing each other very well, and the other two guys, obviously with you, Craig, in odds. I can't imagine an album with, without all of you really. I asked about Bathhouse because it must be a very relaxing, comfortable place to make a record, and the difference between what's the biggest difference other than the recording process between this album and the other two?
It got mixed there, which gave it a bit of the Bathhouse in the end by Niall Spencer. But the difference is the culture of making it, I think. I know that when Rob brought all those tracks with his finished parts for everything here, the other guys feel music the same way Rob does, feel it the same way I do. So it was kind of easy to glue it together for them. And when we're doing that all simultaneously and expanding and contracting the songs and the arrangements are changing, it's a little bit different when you're making eye contact with somebody. And most of those tracks on the first two records were us performing live off the floor and then adding or subtracting from those tracks. But in the end, when I have never gone on a marathon like Faulty Towers marathon with the Strippers Union records, but I think they'd probably hang together. I think that they would have some of the same qualities. Just, I think there's that ambient sound in that recorded space of the Bathhouse that has a sound as well.
Um,
Yeah, and that was the whole idea of the Bathhouse for us came from the Hip recording in New Orleans, because we'd done a record at Sounds Interchange in Toronto, and then we'd gone to Ardent Studios, very storied, famous studio in Memphis, and recorded there. And those were great experiences, but you really have a feeling like you're the soup of the day, and you're aware of who was in the studio before you and who's coming in after you. And it's $1,500 a day, and the red light goes on, and you kind of get the red light fever. You're afraid to try anything or venture anything because you don't have time to make mistakes, because mistakes cost you money.
Yeah.
So it did kind of squash the creativity down a little bit. Going into Lanois' place in New Orleans, you live, you sleep, you eat in the same place, you roll out of bed, make yourself a bowl of cereal, and then go strap on your guitar. Start plugging away at what you're going to work on. And in the other room, someone's listening to the playback from last night and saying, this little jam is going to, that's going to cough something up for us. And we said, that's the way we need to go. It's a clubhouse, our own little clubhouse where we can record and over time turn it into a studio. And that's what we did. And I think other bands come in there and it's a revelation for them. They've recorded in studios, and now they come into a studio that's more like a really cool clubhouse place to live and relax.
It's like a cottage room.
It,
Yeah,
it,
a little bit
it, it,
vacation.
it turns into a round the clock musical atmosphere where you start to forget what time it is. In fact, you have no clue, and the clock gets later or earlier, and it's all about, hey, we need a bass on this. Can you go wake Doug up? He's up in that bed up there, and you wake him up and say, "Wake up, we need this." And oh, okay, stumbles down and does his part. So you have instant access to other people and their ideas, and
You
that's
realize you haven't been outside in 5 days.
yeah, yeah.
Remember, Craig and I we were working on the Deuce, and we'd been inside for, I don't know how many days. It'd probably been 5 days since we'd been outside. And Craig said, let's go for a walk on the lake. And of course, it was frozen. Damned if I didn't fall through a hole through the ice. And,
After a while, people
help,
are missing.
help. And Craig is crawling like a rat towards the shore.
Back inside for 5 days. I never abandon you.
You said crawl out of the hole.
It's just okay. Yeah, use your teeth. Use your teeth.
By the time I got to the side of the road, my pants were frozen solid. They were a block of ice.
He was running in to get you a guitar to throw in.
Yeah, we need a track right now.
I'm going to veer off a little bit for Craig first. I saw Odds. I think it was after Nest came out. I'm not 100% sure, or the album before that. I didn't get a chance to see Trans Canada Highwaymen, that project live. I feel like I've seen every video that's on YouTube because a couple of months ago I interviewed Mo Berg, so I was doing a little bit of research for that, and I watched the entire thing. Partly because you guys are hilarious on stage; you look like you're having so much fun, and partly because I'm a big fan of all of you separately. What is going on now next for you when it comes to those other parts of your career, with Odds or Trans Canada Highway?
Well, pandemic has been pretty good because it allowed us the window to do Strippers Union, and it also allowed us to finish an Odds album. So we had tracked a majority of the basic tracks, as they call them, where we played together, and some tracks weren't those kind of tracks, and they were sitting there, and there were some lyrics undone and all kinds of things. So I just chipped away during the making of the Strippers Union as well. I just chipped away at the Odds record, and it got finished during the pandemic, and it's mastered and ready to go. We're just trying to figure out, no one's clamoring for anything right now, just when's an appropriate time to put it out.
I am. Like, I'm clamoring.
Yeah, he's
I've
clamoring.
heard it.
Rob,
It's a really brilliant record. It's really, it's a big step for Odds, I think, in terms of sonics and ambition. It's really good. Great songwriting, great performance, but it's a more ambitious record, I think.
well, thank you. We feel, and I think Rob will concur, is that you never feel you've done your greatest stuff, but the next thing that you just did is always the best thing. And we feel like we're finally made one that, not that we didn't like all our other records, but most musicians don't go back and listen to them. And as Rob and the guys were so surprised by Saskadelphia, like going back and going, holy shit, we were pretty good. This is good. Because you don't sit there over and over and listen to what happened. You have to be told by somebody what it was, because music is, you give it up to other people and they determine the meaning and whether it's good or not. And so we're excited about this record. I think it's nice to hear Robbie say that, because we're excited about it for those reasons. We took more emotional risks. We wrote about stuff that could offend somebody, could make somebody happy or whatever, but at least it's on that level. And because times had changed, I think it affected us. And then we, and I, the other answer to your question is I sort of survive my day job is a TV composer. So I've been doing that on a number of shows through this period. So I'm going to keep doing that because I had to keep saying yes. So I got it back up. I'm a little backlogged.
It's good to have a backup plan. I was always told that. Trans Canada Highwaymen, has there ever been any talk about a record, or is it
Yeah,
this?
yes. Actually, we started something during the pandemic as well, but same thing. There's four people, and that was just a fun project out of nowhere. Bunch of friends, like part of the group of friends that are friends with Rob and everything, and so we just did that kind of audio visual based live show because it was a idea of another friend of ours, kind of put it together, and yes, we have something. I'm not going to spoil it by. It's like saying I'm going to write a book and then never doing it. We
I did,
started something.
Craig. I did.
Yeah. He's writing.
Terrible
He's
idea.
working. Now you can ask Rob what he's doing. That's my segue. There you go.
Terrible idea.
Well, we'll get there. Rob, your turn. Um, First of all, congratulations to you and the rest of the guys on the Juno Humanitarian Award.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I know artists don't go out of their way to do nice things to get awards for it, but it's also a great way to continue to have, because you have that platform, to continue to draw awareness to a lot of the things that you guys stand for and are voices for. Um, it must have been a special thing for you guys to get that award from Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, because they know the pain of losing a band member, and like you guys do. So that must have been something special as well.
It truly was. First concert I ever went to on my own was Rush on their first album, Foot in Cold Water, opening up.
Wow.
At Memorial Center, the barn in Kingston, and I watched excitedly their career. Like, wow, you can be a Canadian band and be a real bona fide international superstar. You know, a credible rock band. And whether people love their music or hate their music or indifferent to it, you have to acknowledge they are unlike any other band. They don't sound like anyone else before or since. They're completely unique. You have to love that. So, and yeah, they some similar circumstance. So I can feel for Alex and Geddy, as I'm sure they do for us. How how your life can change very suddenly, and your collective dream turns to smoke, and you're left standing there in the clearing, wondering what happened.
I was probably a little bit like the rest of the country, where I was a little bit hesitant to see what the performance was going to be like that night. Leslie Feist was amazing. I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. I've heard some of her solo stuff over the years. I've kind of kept up with it, but I never in a million years would have thought that would work out as well as it did. And it was amazing.
We became friends with her when By Divine Right was doing an opening tour for us for several months, and just something about her really struck us. A beautiful person on every level, kind, smart, witty, and yeah, an instant friendship right across. Like one of those things with Craig and his mates, that first time you meet, you feel like you've known each other your whole life, and you have a common well of things that you're drawing from. And, you know, there's so much to talk about. It's just like you've been waiting to talk, you just haven't met before. So I don't know. She seemed like a natural, and there was a hard push to get us to play, and we were a firm no, not interested. And they kept throwing names at us, and we were like, yeah, not interested. And then our manager, Jake, said Leslie Feist. Everyone kind of stopped. And in my mind, Gord smiled. I was like, Gord would really think that was cool. He would love that. He loved her as much or more than any of us. And if it had been a guy, everyone would be comparing him to Gord.
Yeah, and that's what I was afraid of. And obviously having her do it, I mean, what a voice. Just
her reluctant to put anyone in that position. And I just thought, Leslie Feist can do that. She'll handle that with aplomb. She'll she'll carve her own identity, and she'll be her, and we'll be us, and it'll be fine.
And it took guts. It took guts on her part.
Did. Every time I've seen her live, and I love her records, but every time I see her live, I think the same thing. First, I'm blown away every time. I think she's a unique talent and a unique writer. Just like we were talking about Rush, it's there's only one.
Yeah.
And when you look at her and you say, why isn't everybody saying every day Leslie Feist is a national treasure? She's just amazing to me. So I was super excited because I knew it was going to be good.
Well, I mean, not that she, I mean, she's been around long enough that you're right. Why isn't she? But I think after that performance, you'll find her probably becoming one a little bit quicker. Gentlemen, the album is doing amazing, which is great. Everybody who has ears should own it, but it's also it's doing well despite the fact that you guys haven't been able to get on the road and perform and do tour with it. Is that, now that the world is getting a little bit more level and we're hopefully getting a little bit more back to normal, is that in the cards? Are we going to do a little bit of some live stuff with this?
Yeah, I think it's we'll take it one step at a time. We'll see what happens. If someone knocks on my door and they have bags of money, I'm happy. I'll listen to what they have to say.
That happens all the time.
The idea of going out and doing a tour doesn't really appeal to me at this moment, but I could change my mind. I said I would never play with the Hip again too, and I did. So, it's I plead Sean Connery on most things. Never say never again. Right?
Never say never again.
Okay. Well, I've seen Odds live. I've seen Hip live. I would just love to see Strippers Union live. I think you guys would be great. The sense of humor comes out, so it would certainly be great to see you guys live. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Thank you for joining us on the Record Player, guys. I wish you the best of luck with the record going forward, and with everything else getting back to normal. I wish you the best of health. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Okay, see you later.